Yes, good morning. So, yesterday we were discussing about quantitative and qualitative information. I told you that quantitative is like we can measure, and wherever we have these information which can be measured, like age of the person, income, his assets, liabilities, all these things we have listed, which are called as quantitative. They can be quantified. That's why we call it as quantitative. A qualitative information is something which cannot be measured or which is assumed to be measured. That's why we have discussed, in fact, when we generally discussed about qualitative, we told that when there is a goal amount, I want to educate my child, get the child married. So all these things involve certain assumptions. What could be the current expense? What could be the future expense? What could be the inflation to be considered for that particular goal? So these are all certain assumptions are involved. That's the reason it comes under qualitative. Risk appetite or risk tolerance, I just explained that. Risk appetite is about what kind of a what level of risk in the investment the person is ready to take. It is not about regular risk, which is called as insurance covered risk. These are the risk which is talking about what level of investment risk the person is ready to take. We will have a questionnaire from the answers given for the question. Each one, how much you are ready to lose. Okay, if 50% of your investment is lost, are you okay with that? So the answers would be I agree, I don't agree, I partially agree. Like that, there will be answers. So for each answer, each option, there will be a mark. So like that, there are so many questions. Sometimes there could be 40, 45 questions. So total of all that is clubbed, and then they will arrive at a particular mark, and then mark or number. That grade gives them an understanding about what is the risk tolerance level. Okay, so generally most of the people will have risk tolerance level which will be very conservative. What is conservative is people who are not ready to lose out. People are cautious when they give the answers. So mostly they think that it's better I give that, I don't want to lose out money. But at the same time, what happens is to achieve their goals, they may have to take certain challenges. Okay, so in that way, what happens is we may have to give a overriding information. That is, we will say that your goals cannot be achieved with this kind of a risk tolerance level. So in those cases, we will say we are overriding it, we are just moving it towards moderate level. So only if your risk level is moderate, then you will be able to achieve your goals to this extent. So these are all the statements we will give. If you are agreeable, we are ready to give you the suggestions. So like that, our decisions will be there. Okay, when we give the plan. So the risk appetite or risk tolerance test gives them an idea about what is the level of risk the people are ready to take. Then goals, priorities, and then prioritization is most of the people do not even know. They will say buying a house is the topmost priority. Actually, we hear that I think Tatas do not have a home of their own. They live in rental houses. That's what we are hearing. I don't know exactly. I'm not able to recollect exactly whether it is Tatas or Birlas. So such big rich people in India, they don't even want to possess a home. So they understand that owning a home is not the priority. So like that, people do not even realize what is their priority. So we may have to guide them for their priority. So that is also a qualitative. It's not quantitative. Okay. Financial strength and weakness. That is our analysis, right? So any analysis what we are doing, that is giving our opinion about it. It's not a kind of a fixed rule or regulation. So whenever we analyze and give an information, we have to see that we have to tell there that it I opine, that is my opinion is like that only. I suggest. We cannot say that this is a rule. This is what is correct. Okay. So these are all qualitative. Income and asset protection. So income and asset, how they want to protect it. By what means? They might have their own ideas. So these are all ideas. And retirement plans, what they are planning. So all these things are talking about certain goals and asset acquisition, short term and long term goals, tax planning strategy, estate planning, all these things. Estate planning is about passing the legacy to the future generation. It's about will writing. Some people want to create a trust. Some people want to have nomination in their respective investments. Those are all considered under estate planning strategies. So you collect everything, whatever they have in their mind, their ideas, their concerns, their problems, their difficulties, why they have not invested in equity till now. Okay, so this information is very, helpful in planning because your plan is going to be a unique one. Okay, that's why I told you we are evolving the plan, right? So that way, a qualitative information list helps you in creating the unique plan. Okay, so the next one is analyzing and evaluating financial status. This we have already discussed. Weakness and strength. I told you credit card, huge outstanding or loan, lot of liabilities. Here, EMI crossing more than the 40-50%. All those things are considered to be weaknesses. And then strength is if he is having a pensionable job, is having a real estate which is giving some rental income and all that, those are all plus points, right? And not having liability. So all these things will give you the strengths and weaknesses which you can measure, and you can tell them when you present the plan to them, you can tell them that see you have this strength, this is your financial strength. Okay, so that gives them a confidence that you have done an analysis, you are appreciate. Generally if you appreciate, that gives them the attention to what you are telling next. Okay, so personal financial statements, balance sheet showing assets and liabilities, and then you have to create the net worth of the client, you have to calculate, and then personal cash flow statement. I mentioned that cash flow statement is about income and expenditure for a certain period. Generally, it is taken for 1 year. Okay, so if you are, because generally the next review happens in the next year. So during that particular year where you are doing the planning, that 1 year. Suppose you start in the month of April till next month, March, 1 full year, personal cash flow is arrived at, so that you will be able to understand whether there is any discretionary income. And then budget for the next year is also shown. These are all the things which you need to create. So what is a balance sheet? Net worth of a person is an amount by which his assets exceed liabilities. Correct? Net worth is what? How much more assets he has got when all the liabilities are getting cleared, right? So mathematical expression is net worth is equal to asset minus liability. Asset is something what he has today, so that means he is possessing it. And then liability is something what he owes today, that is what he has to repay. Net worth is present value of an individual. Here I told you, I asked you a question rather. Suppose he has to perform the marriage of the daughter which is costing him 15 lakhs after a certain period of time, say after 15 years. It will come under asset or liability. We discussed, right? It can be an asset, probably he has accumulated that corpus, or it can be a liability because he is going to take a loan for that or what. But as such, it is just a goal. He has not, we have not told that he has accumulated. We have not told that he has kept some money in FD. We have not told that he has availed loan. Okay, it's just a goal. So goals, all this qualitative information do not find a place in your balance sheet. Okay, balance sheet will have the actual cash flows which are happening as of now at present. And then one thing what you need to remember is he is going to get an increment after 5 months. I'm not going to consider that. It is as on today. Okay, that is what balance sheet is something like today. All of you know, right? Because usually balance sheet will not have a period. Yeah, on the heading, most of you might have done your BCom commerce or MBA finance or something, so you will understand that a balance sheet will be as on date, as on a particular date. Okay, so you might have taken a loan of 25 lakhs, but you would have cleared some of them. As on today, outstanding loan is 22 lakhs, means you have to take only 22 lakhs into consideration. And also, I mentioned that future interest which you have to pay should not be considered. Only the loan outstanding has to be considered under liability. Okay, EMIs and all should be avoided. Your expenses are not considered. This is only accumulated assets and balance liabilities. Got the point? And also we discussed that insurance policy, when we are having sum assured, is not an asset, because I will not get the sum assured immediately. What I will get is only the surrender value if it is an endowment policy. What is an endowment policy? A policy where there is some kind of a accrual or accumulation is happening. Whereas an insurance which is called as term policy, there is no accrual, it is payable only on death. So such policies will not have any value in your balance sheet. Okay, you cannot mention that. So these are certain points which you need to remember. Okay, so a consistent increase in net worth indicates good financial health. So if a person is able to increase his wealth net worth continuously, that is a good financial. How can his net worth increase? Anybody can tell me? What are all the ways?
By decreasing the unusual expenses.
Do we consider
Increase
expenses here?
assets.
Do we consider expenses here, Supriya?
No, 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 no. In
So
net
we'll
worth, it will be not considered.
not consider. So where can we? How do? In what way does it increases net worth? Net worth
Increase in the
comprises of only
investment
two
Asset
things:
value.
assets and liabilities. Now you tell me how to increase the net worth.
asset increase.
Beautiful. So Birendra
Asset
is
increase
telling
and liabilities decrease.
beautiful. So either you decrease your liability by clearing off the loans, or you increase your asset by accumulating. So either of that or both of that, if you do, your net worth keeps on increasing. Okay. So your expenses should not be considered. That's why I wanted to understand. I wanted you to understand that. Okay. So balance sheet, we saw yesterday that housing loan, personal loan, vehicle loan, credit card, outstanding, all these things are given. Okay. It is not credit card amount due. It is the total amount due in the under credit card. They will say due amount you have to pay is the minimum amount. I am not talking about that. Whatever is the total amount that is to be paid under the credit card is considered here. Past accumulated interest which is not paid has to be included as liability. But future interest which has to be paid will not be included. I am giving this clarity now itself, because we will do some calculation of net worth. Okay, they will include lot of these points over there. He has been paying 10% interest on his personal loan. Like that, they will give whether you have to consider that or not. Okay, then house is an asset which is 20 lakhs worth, vehicle 5 lakhs. House, you will give the purchase price or present value. Anybody?
Present value, ma'am.
Present value, ma'am.
Beautiful. So, what is the current market value that you have to consider under fixed asset? House is 20 lakhs worth now. Okay. You might have purchased 5 years back for 20 lakhs. Currently, it might be 35 lakhs. So, you have to mention 35 lakhs is the worth of the house. Vehicle, vehicle also you have to consider the depreciated value. Okay. You cannot consider the purchase value of the vehicle. Whenever we mention anything in the asset, we consider that today if I want to encash it, what is the money I'll get? That is what you have to consider. Okay. Jewelry also current value. Household items like they are talking about refrigerator, TV and all these kind of electronic and other items. So that is around all that depreciated value. Then financial assets, life insurance, I have told you surrender value of the policies and ULIP means you have to take the fund value. Okay. Then mutual funds, current value, shares, current market value, cash and bank, what is available at bank and in hand. So these are all the things. So when we list out for net worth calculation, liabilities are 21 lakhs 50,000 and assets are all put together fixed and financial total is 40 lakhs 75,000. At least this person has got a positive net worth. And also we discussed that as the age proceeds, net worth should increase, but at the same time, when you are very young and you are going towards 40, 45, usually your liabilities increases. So your net worth may not increase much. Whereas after you cross 40, 45 and then you're going towards your retirement, your net worth should increase. Your liability should decrease. Usually what happens is at the younger age, accumulation will also be high. You will start accumulating more and more. But gradually you will have different loans also. That's the reason net worth increase will be very moderate. Whereas when you cross 40, 45, then it will increase at a very high rate. Because even salaries would have crossed a certain level. Cash flow is always actuals, no assumptions. Okay, so it gives a picture of client's income and spending nature. So, what is the discretionary income that is left for us to give suggestions of savings? That is what we have to give. So, what will happen to the net worth we discussed? What percentage of income should be your EMI? We told you somewhere between 30 to 35% could be your EMI. Okay, up to 40% is allowed. There is no hard and fast rule. Okay, that's why I told you when the person is young, in his late 30s, he will definitely have around 50% of his income under EMI. But gradually that will come down. Okay, and what are contingency requirement? Contingency requirement is about not having an income temporarily. For example, 3 months or 6 months, a person is sick or any kind of accident and losing their limbs and they're taking rest, loss of pay, or for qualifying, for getting a higher qualification, he has taken a break. So these are the periods which are called as contingency, and the bigger contingency is death of the breadwinner. So in these contingency period, how a family is going to handle the situation. So whether you are provided for that. So that comes the initial requirement. That also has to be understood what is the requirement and that should be provided for. Okay. So cash flow statement, September, October, November, opening balance, salary credited, total amount available, and then expenditure is deducted from there and balance at the end of the period. Now, looking at the balance every month, I shouldn't think that okay, he can actually invest such a high amount. There might be some periodical expenses. For example, there could be like insurance premium due, which will be payable annually. And there could be medical insurance, there could be car insurance, and all this. And also the term fees for the children. All those things have to be provided for. These kind of expenses during the year, you can ask them to accumulate through an RD. Okay, so generally what happens is RD is a recurring deposit, so they can contribute to that on a monthly basis so that these term expenses once in a quarter, once in a year, half yearly, all this no, these things can be provided because living expenses are only your regular monthly expenses, milk, provision, rental or maintenance, water, electricity, all those things come under living expenses. Whereas the term expenses, which are occurring at a periodic interval, not monthly, so those things have to be provided for. Okay, that could be provided for through an RD, bank RD, or it could be provided through an accumulation through a debt scheme. The only challenge with the debt schemes are, in fact, you can aim at short term debt schemes. But what happens is, within 3 years, if you withdraw, then there will be a tax implication. So you need to be looking at that also. Okay. So all these things you need to be thinking when you suggest any kind of, accumulation vehicle to your client. Cash flow analysis, that's what we have already done. So it is better to express as a percentage of the income. So you can tell them what percentage of your income is going towards this expense, whether there is a possibility of reduction in it. Okay. Contingency and an obligation. So what is a contingency? Just now I explained to you. A short term contingency or a permanent contingency, right? So you should know how to accumulate some kind of a corpus and keep it ready. Okay. Contingency planning to cover unexpected circumstances. What are unexpected? Early death, disability, diseases, destitution. Destitution is unemployment. Suddenly they, they lose their jobs. So in that case, any kind of probably higher qualification acquiring it during that period. Lockdown period. In some companies, they paid only 50% of their salary. So these are all certain situations which people need to think about. The planners need to think about. Okay, so that they'll be able to provide for these situations. If somebody has done a proper planning, these 3 months pandemic period, lockdown period, they would not have faced any difficulty, right? Yeah. Taxation and social security also have to think, because the whole income what you are earning is not coming to your pocket. So there is a provision which goes towards government. So you have to think about whenever you are considering any returns from your investments. And to provide for all this, proper budgeting needs to be done. That is, to provide for contingencies and obligation, and also to achieve the goals and objectives, proper budgeting need to be done. So budgeting is talking about allocation of resources. Okay, what is the expenses that are expected for a 1 year period, for a long term, accommodating all the goals, accommodating every requirement, and also taking them into consideration the inflation factor. Okay, factorizing inflation also into it. Because what happens is, I spend say 50,000 per month now, and if I am budgeting for the next year, I should give a little extra, right? I have to provide for a little more. So this is what is budget. So budgeting is applied to develop a specific plan for spending and investing the client's financial resources. It is rather a future planning, but remember not to have a deficit budget. So people should be very careful. Government budgets are deficit budgets most of the time, right? But we cannot have that. So we need to be cautious about it, because our resources are limited. According to that, effectively how to use the resources that we need to think about. Steps in forming the budget: identify and compute the family income, form assessment for both fixed and discretionary expenses. Certain expenses are fixed, right? At least for 1 year, house rent is fixed. Next year, it may increase. Whereas certain expenses are, they keep increasing depending upon inflation. Each type of expense will have a different inflation. Okay, you might be knowing education might have a 12% increase, whereas general inflation could be 7%. What is the inflation now? Any idea? General inflation. I just want to verify whether all are awake or people have dozed off. Oh,
6 to 7%, I think. I think it is. Inflation has gone down below 6%, right, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, we are cutting the interest rates, right?
yeah, yeah. Within seconds, somebody has Googled. Shantanu is giving the exact figure of 5.79%. Okay, good. So, we are having such a low inflation to be considered as of now. But will inflation increase in due course or it will decrease? What is your idea?
Likely to increase
I mean, if you
because of
think
the.
long term, I'm not talking about short term. As the country goes to a developed country level, what will
Then
happen?
it will go down,
It will decrease, ma'am.
It will
Decrease,
decrease.
ma'am.
It will
decrease.
decrease. India is going towards that. I'm asking you. India is going towards that direction.
Yeah, another 40
Yes, sir.
years, 30, 40 years.
40, 50 is too long a period. Probably we can expect about 10 to 15 years. 15 years down the line, it will be less. So if you are planning for retirement for somebody after 15 years, probably you can keep the inflation as 3 to 4% for post retirement period, not for pre retirement. Yeah. So what is discretionary expense?
Cinema, purchasing a sofa, new sofa set.
Cinema is discretionary. Yes. What is?
Unexpected expenses, ma'am.
Pardon?
Unexpected expenses.
Discretionary is, I mean, you can make a
Whatever
decision
is
on
not a need, whatever is not a real need, but want,
that. Right.
and you can live with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So discretionary is discretionary means it is at your discretion. So you can take a decision on that, right? So a discretionary expense is something very specific. You can think whether you consider it or not. So that is in your hands. Because why we are separating that is fixed income is a need. It is the basic thing which you have to provide for. Whereas discretionary is if you don't have any sufficient I mean resources, you can leave it at least. Now, currently, we are leaving a lot of things, right? So that is possible. We are able to live without those hotels or cinema halls or all that malls and visits. Lot of purchases we are avoiding. So that is possible. So those are all discretionary expenses. Okay. So ascertain the surplus or deficiency of income and then find sources of increasing the income or diminishing the expense. This is what I have seen, I have observed in all this abroad financial planning. When they consider, they will ask them, in case you want to increase your income, what kind of an extra qualification you want to acquire in your field, what could be the cost of it. So these are all things they ask as a question in their questionnaire form. So, suppose you are in a particular field, suppose you qualify, do one certification. Say you are a mutual fund advisor, you qualify as a CFP. You have a possibility of getting an extra income. So that is what they are asking. Here it is not an extra income, it is actually a compensating income. Instead of commission, you earn fee. That's all, right? Whereas in any other field, so they ask the question whether there is a possibility of increasing the income or diminishing, reducing any expenses. So compute income and expenditure as a percentage of the total. That's what we already. So even we have done for the current expenditure, same thing you show it for the future also. So this budgeting is very important because when you inflate and show, in fact, I used to share one experience of mine. In fact, a person who was I mean in his early 30s, he just got a daughter who is around 3 years old. Okay, when I went and met them for financial planning, he was asking about he I was planning. He said about retirement. Then I asked, how about your daughter? Whether you have provided for her education. Then he said, oh, education is it can be done, no problem. I have accumulated some cash and kept it aside. Then I asked, what is it? How do you know whether it is sufficient? He said, 3 lakhs I have kept aside. When I asked 3 lakhs, will it be sufficient? He says that money will grow. She's anyway 3 years. But wait, I'm telling him how much it will grow. What is the percentage of return? He says he has kept it in some PPF or something. I don't remember. Then he says that it will grow at around 8%. It will be sufficient. I have grown it for 15 years and I have shown him that was becoming somewhere around 12 to 13 lakhs. And then actual requirement when you hike the fees as per the inflation, it was coming as 57 lakhs. Then I was telling him, see the difference. So this is what is a thought process people will generally have. I've accumulated something and kept. Most of the people, what they do is they'll plan as per the current value. Okay, currently the expenditure for school, college is around say 6 lakhs. Okay, let me accumulate 6 lakhs and keep it now. That is not the correct process, right? So you should understand what is the requirement. The inflation is which is very important calculation and specific inflation for that particular type of expenditure. That is very important. Okay, so you have to collect the data for college expenditure for few years and then see how it is increasing so that you will know what percentage you can increase it. Generally, it is ranging between, actually, it will range 15 to 18, but we cannot consider 15 to 18, so people will consider between 10 to 12 as the inflation for higher education.
Madam, if you go to the previous slide,
Mm.
in the last point, it says of total. What is total income, or what is that your compute income and expenditure as a percentage of total income and total expenditure, or
No, no. Actually, what you can do is you can give a percentage of each head. For example, any particular expenditure, you give it as a head of, percentage of the income and also of the total expenditure. Suppose a person is earning 1 lakh and the particular
Mhm.
expenditure is say uh, 10,000 rupees and his total expenditure is say 60,000. So you give the
Mhm.
10,000 as a percentage of 1 lakh and also a percentage of 60. So he will
Okay,
understand how much I am spending, what percentage is going towards this specific expenditure, and what percentage of my total income is going towards this expenditure. So it gives you a overall idea, a kind of
okay.
a ratio kind of a thing, whether I'm spending
Mhm.
this is spending this particular expenditure to this extent is correct or not. Okay, so
Okay, okay.
10,000 divided by 1 lakh, 10,000 divided by 60,000. It is a
Mm-hmm.
percentage
Okay,
of income as well as the expenditure. So that is what
okay.
generally we give. Okay.
And in the previous slide, the one before, yeah,
Mm.
budgeting is applied to. Okay,
Develop a specified plan for spending.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Right. Thank you.
Welcome. So now surplus cash is there after accommodating all your expenses. So how to invest that? Okay. A carefully and skillfully designed cash forecast, that is budget, helps you to select securities with appropriate maturities and reasonable risk. Why we have to consider maturities? Certain things you cannot withdraw in between. For example, PPF you start, you have to hold it till 15 years. If you have a goal which is in between, there is no use in accumulating it through PPF, right? So you should understand whether any maturity is there, whether you will be able to redeem it in between, what are the repercussion if you do it in between. All those things have to be taught. And then reasonable risk. The risk you are taking should be in tune with risk tolerance level of the client. That also is important. Avoid over and under investing. Over investing is also not required. Under investing is also not correct. Over investing is good or bad. What is over investing? Say as per your goals, you have to invest say 60,000 rupees. But you are investing, okay, let there be 75,000, let it be invested. Is it good or bad?
Bad, ma'am. Bad.
Bad, ma'am.
Why bad?
It
It is
will
good on
affect our budget.
It it's not in our goal. It's more than our income.
No, no, no. If it is within your income
We are
only,
sacrificing the current expenses for that, it is bad. But if we have surplus, it is good only.
it is surplus only. You are not sacrificing the current expenses.
Then
But
it is
still,
good only, no, ma'am.
So he's
mhm,
sacrificing his lifestyle
ah,
for that. That
beautiful.
is not good.
Who said
And
that?
second thing,
We are not.
thank you,
Actually,
ma'am. And the second thing is the person would also be probably getting into debt sometimes to overinvest. That's also not good.
that is also correct. See, there are things that currently his income is more, he is able to do excess investment. But at the same time, that excess investment is, making you like, you're giving away your lifestyle. Spending opportunity is gone, right? So that you may not enjoy doing it. And probably it is showing some kind of a fear. You shouldn't have the fear. You have done the analysis, you have done all the things which have to be appropriately done, and after that only you have done the investment. A little more is okay, but too much of over investment is also not good. So that's the reason over investment is also not good. Under investment definitely you will not be able to achieve the goals. Okay, maximize profits by investing idle money. So this is what is called as opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost is generally you, uh, instead of keeping it in SB account, I have seen many people keeping lakhs of rupee in SB account. Instead of keeping it there, you can have a sweeping FD, in the same bank it will be available, which will be giving around 1 or 2% a higher interest rate. Or you can put it in the liquid scheme where it can give a little extra. So these are the things which you need to think about because you are losing out there. Okay, so that you need to think about. Instead of here, the appropriate word would be instead of maximizing the profit, you can even call it as optimizing the profit. That would be the better terminology there. Okay, the primary importance is given to keep the emergency fund aside. Okay, that is what we consider contingency, right? That is what is emergency fund. That should be taken care first. That is the primary thing. Then rest of the things will follow. So every financial decision involves evaluating types of risk. We have been seeing investment returns, product and all that. Now risk is important. Inflation risk has to be considered. What is inflation is rising prices cause loss of buying power. So what happens, loss of buying power. So what is buying power is the same amount if you want to buy the same product next year, it may not happen. So the prices might vary. That is what is inflation. Interest rate risk is the effect, cost of borrowing and the rate of return. What is the meaning of that is borrowing the loan borrowed, the interest might keep on increasing, right? So that kind of a risk is there. If you have taken a housing loan, so the housing loan interest will not be constant. So you have to consider whether you have to go in for a fixed interest rate or varying interest rate. So these are certain things which will be giving the interest rate risk. Income risk is losing a job that all of us know. Personal risk is health, safety and cost. If sickness is there, expenses will be more. So if there is an accident, then expense will be more. So that has to be considered. Liquidity risk is when you want the money, whether you are able to liquidate that, whether there is a marketability of your product, availability of money when needed. Okay, whether you can withdraw just like ATM, can you go and withdraw your investment money? So those are things which are to be decided. So every financial decision you have to consider all these points. Taxation is one of the points which you need to consider. That is also a risk. Now there are certain ratios. What are ratios? Ratios helps you to give the client an idea about whether his current condition is satisfactory, whether his current financial position is satisfactory or not. Okay, so if it is not, then you have to guide them how he has to achieve that. Okay, so what kind of ratios are there? There are four ratios which we generally calculate. Debt ratio. What is debt ratio? The word itself tells you that how much liability he has got. You have to consider that. Towards what? In terms of his net worth. What percentage of his net worth is in his liability? So debt ratio is equal to total liability divided by net worth. This compares debt to net worth. Lower debt ratio is the best. We all know, right? If the net worth is high and liabilities are less, so this is anyway, it will come in a decimal or something, which is very good. Current ratio. Current is always immediate. So current ratio is liquid asset divided by current liabilities. So what is liquid asset? A liquid asset is something which you can convert into money within 24 hours. What are that? Can you just tell me? They are called
Cash, gold, stocks.
gold.
Cash in
Mutual
bank.
fund, mutual fund, ma'am.
Cash in
FDs.
hand, cash at bank is okay because cash at bank also
Okay.
you can withdraw through ATM. Gold, how do you convert within 24 hours? You have
One
to go
broker.
and search for a merchant. Will you get the same money? Another thing you have to be cautious is here whether you will get whatever is the value immediately. Cash in hand and cash at bank, if you have deposited 10,000, you can withdraw 10,000. Whereas gold, you need to see what is the current price. There should be a person to purchase that, right? You should look for a buyer, right? So the gold also is not a liquid asset. Mutual funds are not liquid assets. All mutual funds are not liquid asset because if you have a mutual fund, if you apply for redemption, it will take 2 to 3 days, not 24 hours. They have only one type of
Bonds.
mutual fund. They have only one type of mutual
Bonds.
fund. Bonds also you will not get immediately. The money gets credited to your account after 2 to 3 days. Stock market is also T plus 2 days, right? So all these things will take a couple of days. If the stock market is not functioning today, you cannot withdraw, right? You cannot take it. Same way with the mutual funds. Whereas money market funds are only things which can be encashed within 24 hours. So you should know that which are the liquid assets. Liquid assets are only three things: cash in hand, cash at bank, and money market funds. So these are all the three things which are liquid. Okay. So how well a short-term asset cover the short-term debt? That is what is called as current ratio. This ratio should be higher. Debt ratio should be lower. Current ratio should be higher. Higher means medium, not too much high. Because you cannot keep everything in liquid asset, right? So it should be exactly satisfying your current liability. Current liability means generally that immediate liability, which you have to clear it off. Okay. So a revised version of current ratio is called as liquidity ratio. A liquidity ratio is for an individual, whereas a current ratio is for a company. Okay, so now liquidity ratio, how do you find out? Liquid assets by monthly expenses. Same thing, but only thing is instead of current liability, monthly expense is my liability. So 1 month, what is my expense? All that expenses have to be considered. Suppose you have any annual expense, you have to divide it by 12 and add it to the monthly expense. That is how you have to consider. For example, you have annual fees to be paid to the school. You divide it by 12 and add it to the monthly expense because that is the monthly portion of your annual expense. All those things have to be considered. Okay. So even if you have monthly expense, even if you have an annual insurance premium, that has to be divided by 12 and added as monthly expense. Okay, so liquid assets divided by monthly expenses giving you the liquidity ratio. Here also, higher ratio is good, higher is marginally higher. Generally, liquidity ratio varies according to your type of job. Why do we require liquidity ratio to be found out is these kind of pandemic situations or kind of situations wherein you may not have an income for a certain period, say 3 to 6 months, right? So you have to provide for. You should have liquid assets which can accommodate to that extent. So in that case, what you need to consider is, suppose you are in a private company, you can have liquid assets up to 6 months. If you are working in a government organization, you can have liquid assets up to 3 months of expenditure, that is enough. Why? What is the reason? Any idea?
The job loss situation comes very less, I think, in private in public sector companies.
Absolutely. Not only that, not only the job loss situation, also they will not reduce your income. They are not allowed to do that. Once they have agreed, it is a contractual thing. So once they have agreed for an income, certain companies reduce as 50% and all. Those things will not happen in government organizations. Even if they deduct now, they will pay you later. So that is how it is. So that is the reason. Liquidity ratio number can be up to 3 for people working in public sector and government. If your income is regular income, whereas for others, private and other things, you can have up to 6 months. So 6, liquid ratio can be 6. So we say it should be ranging between 3 to 6. Risk coverage ratio is talking about what is the insurance cover you have. Okay, net worth plus death benefits divided by annual gross income of the principal wage earner. So this is equating about, this is equating the amount of assets you have to the extent of how many years of your expenditure, family expenditure can be managed. So if the principal wage earner is no more, is not there, from the death benefits what you are receiving from the policy, and also the net worth, that is assets minus liabilities, what is there, all put together, how many years of the expenditure you can manage. Instead of expenditure, here we are matching with the income. As though the same person is earning, to that extent, if you want to get the income, how many years you will be able to manage. So this gives the number of years for which the existing assets can compensate the breadwinner's income. Okay. So here, suppose this is very less. Or I can ask you the question, how many years it should compensate? What is the number? What should be the number?
Depends on the age of the person who is dying and how many children they have and how many years left, whether they are married. All these things have to be taken into account.
Any
Education
particular thing?
expenses.
I am expecting a particular word there. You told age, that is right. Connecting to that as something else I require. Beautiful,
Retirement.
Jay Prakash.
Yeah.
His retirement age. Okay, that is required. His retirement age minus current age, that is the period for which you have to provide. Right? So risk coverage will be provided because he is going to give you the income only till the retirement. Got the point? So the period for which this has to satisfy is till his retirement age. If this risk coverage ratio comes as the number which is equal to current age till his retirement age, that is fine. But we don't know whether it will be sufficient. Suppose it is not, see, till his retirement age is 20 years, but this is giving only 10 years. What will you do? Immediately you have to fill in that gap. How will you do that? Will you reduce his retirement age?
Insurance,
Pardon?
insurance policy should be taken.
Super, super, Bhavya. So we have to compensate with the which insurance policy? Where is Chaitanya?
Term insurance.
Chaitanya
Term
is
Term.
speaking.
insurance.
Pardon?
Term insurance.
Super.
Term insurance.
Good, Bhavya. So we have to give a term policy immediately because if you want to increase the net worth, he has to earn, he has to invest and all that. Whereas if you want to give a term policy, it's quick, right? Just by payment of one premium, he gets the coverage. So whatever is the difference number of years to that volume of sum assured, you can provide a term policy. Okay, that is how risk coverage is because death benefit is there, right? That can be increased by insurance coverage. Okay, so these are all the ratios which you have to show it to the client: debt ratio, current liquidity, and risk coverage. There are a lot of other ratios. Let us not bother about it. These are the major four ratios which you have to project in your financial plan and show them whether they are comfortable or they have to accumulate. So that if current ratio is less, that is liquidity ratio. Current and liquidity are the same. So for individuals, you have to show the liquidity only. So tell them that it is only available for 2 to 2.5 months. You accumulate till 6 months. Okay, that volume you keep it aside. And then risk coverage also you can ask them to take the term policy to cover the risk. Okay, so like that debt ratio anyway, let them have it's an eye opener. So you will tell them that you are in a comfortable position or you are not. That is what debt ratio tells them. So there is an example: liquidity ratio, liquid asset by monthly expenditure. So he has got 2,25,000, monthly expenditure is 30,000. So 7.5, whereas liquidity ratio can be between 3 to 6. So this is a case study. Rajiv is 45 years, income is 62,000 per month net of taxes, getting an increment of 5,000 in the month of October. Expenses are 30,000, increasing standard of living by 2% every month for 1 year. Liquid assets 2,25,000, cash at bank is 120 out of that. Other financial assets is 18,000, 18,30,000. Calculate liquidity ratio and provide cash flow statement for 3 months. Here, increasing standard of living by 2% should be considered in liquidity. For liquidity ratio, we shouldn't consider all this future assumptions. Liquidity ratio should be current position. That's all. So, what we have done here is directly taken liquid assets divided by current monthly expenditure. That's all. That is what is liquidity ratio. That's why liquid asset 225 divided by 30. Whereas cash flow is you can create for 3 months. Anyway, I have not shown it there. 3 months you can create by increasing his expenditure and then reducing his other expenses. You can arrive at the cash flow. Okay. Now, how to create a table for goal cash flow? So, goals: retirement, son school admission, travel and vacation, and then asset purchase. Okay. Year of usage, year of goal rather, 2048, 2022, 28, 25. Okay. Present value of the need is 25,000 per month retirement. That is, currently he is spending 25,000. So you have to provide from 2048, 25,000 per month. Inflated expense. Son school admission is 2 lakhs. Travel and vacation is 12 lakhs. Asset purchase is 45 lakhs. These are all current price. Future value. So I am telling that at retirement he should have 2 crores so that he will be able to get 1 lakh per month. Why 1 lakh? Because current 25,000 is equivalent to 1 lakh per month on his retirement. Okay. Son's school admission is increased by certain percentage, so it has become 250. Travel and vacation has become 2440. Asset purchase has become 75 lakhs. Allocation of assets, no allocation from the current fund. So we have to create afresh. Son's school, you are allocating 1 lakh from the current saving, you are keeping it aside. That will be kept in liquid scheme because it is immediate, isn't it? Only 2 years are there. Then travel and vacation also 1 lakh from the current saving, you are keeping it in the investment, and then 5 lakh from the existing investment, and loan of 80% on purchase in case of asset. So monthly investment towards retirement is 5,000 per month, incrementing at 10%. That means every year 5,000 will be go on increasing. Your contribution is increasing. Okay, this increasing is not the returns. Increasing is the contribution is increasing by a certain percentage. Sun school admission is this. All this contribution is arrived at, and then asset allocation here you are doing 80% equity, 20% debt, because this is a long term goal, right? Retirement is 2048 is far away. School education is 30% equity and debt is 70 because it is very close by. So we are giving a kind of a balance fund. Then travel and vacation is equity 80, debt 20. This is mainly because it's not a necessity. So we are giving more of equity exposure. Asset purchase 50-50. Equity and debt. So this is just an assumption. So this is how we show the goals and other information about the goals in a tabular form. Okay. Fine. The next is planning process, ways to achieve what is budgeted. Offer financial planning recommendations. So you have to give, okay, these are all the steps. These are all the things I am suggesting. Proposals, recommendations should be tailored to client's financial position, his goals and objectives. Also his risk tolerance level. Make the client understand the recommendation, not just suggesting, you are making him understand how you will be able to achieve. So we have gone through a lot of things. So now a little bit of revision on that. Quickly we'll go through. So what is the first thing? Define financial goals, develop the plan, implement the plan, develop the budgets. These are all not the 6-step process. This is what is the order in which we have to do. Okay. What's the goal? You have met the client, you have done everything, you have collected the data, you have defined the 4 goals, you have created the plan. Then support him in implementing the plan, and then create the budget, cash flow and budget. Just a minute. Then financial actions, basic asset allocation, decision, credit decision. Credit is about what kind of a liability he can have. Some clients may not be interested in having the liability, right? So discussion on all that, insurance, investment, retirement and estate. All these things have to be done. So what is the next step? He shocked looking at the plan. Evaluate the results. That is, after everything is done, after a certain period of time, you just evaluate. In case any revision is required, you can do the revision. Okay. Again, go back. Prepare the financial statements and then go back to the client, again redefine the goals, because we have achieved this much, whereas in this pattern this is what is achieved. If it is no problem for, there is no requirement for revision, just explain to him. Okay, the same process will continue. So what is money is? Money is the medium here, isn't it? Even though we say financial goal, everything, money is needed at every stage. Here it is dollar, you can say rupee. This, I think this is a very generic slide, we can just skip this. So to attain your financial goals, you should be very specific, smart goals, realistically attainable goals, involve family members. Okay, so also you just tell them that their cooperation is required, because some expenditure have to be reduced. Your spouse and children have to be agreeable for that, right? So you have to make them sit with you. Most of the things, insurance should not be kept as a secret. The family should know. We have seen a lot of movies which are using the insurance in the negative way. But here, the family should know what kind of insurance they have taken, so that they can utilize it in the absence of the breadwinner, right? They can just encash it. Otherwise, the bond is not located and they are not getting the benefits. The company's insurer is not informed about the death of the breadwinner. All those things poses problem. So family should know, prioritize goals and set a definite time frame. Any issues? You're able to hear? Okay. I will log out and log in like yesterday, because yesterday also same thing happened. After 1 hour there was a break, right? Today also I am observing the same thing. I don't know, they have not rectified the problem with the system, I think. Just hello? Yeah. I will log out and log in again, okay? You all can stay.
Go out and log in, please do so. Thank you.